8:45 p.m. on Monday the 25th of September 2017, and this is the Cat's Whiskers podcast live. Hello and welcome to this week's weekend review. Cat's Whiskers. Put my teeth in again. It's happened 2 weeks on the trot. This weekend review, Cat's Whiskers podcast. My name is Jono Bullard. I'm delighted to say with me tonight are Andy Haywood.
Evening.
Antoine Marie-Jeanne.
Good evening.
And Adam Reddish.
Hello.
We'll be looking back on both Panthers games over the weekend against Braehead and Guildford. We'll also be looking at all the other eventful games in the Elite League, including a belter between Sheffield and Belfast in more ways than one last night, and a great weekend for the Manchester Storm as well, again, with a 6-1 victory against Cardiff that puts them at the top of the league. We'll also be looking ahead to Panthers games this week against Belfast on Wednesday and the Manchester Storm in the Challenge Cup on Saturday. If you would like to get in touch with us during the show, you can do best to do that via Twitter. It's at Cat's Whiskers TV on Twitter. We would love to hear from you as we go on throughout the show. We've also had plenty of tweets from you over the past 24 hours about the weekend, and we'll be endeavouring to read all those out a little later on. But first, let's go back to Saturday night. Panthers taking on the Braehead clan in Elite League action at the NIC. Panthers suffering a 5-3 defeat at the hands of the clan. Panthers goal scorers were Evan Mosey, Josh Schaller and Ollie Betteridge. Clan goals coming from Mike Emback, Matt Haywood, Brendan Brooks with 2 and Adam Brace. So, guys, and Ant, I'll start with you. No sugarcoating that. It was a poor performance by Nottingham.
It certainly turned out to be one. I didn't think it started off that bad. I thought we came out fast. We peppered their goal. Early on we got a decent start. But then one daft mistake on a power play of our own, and the game turns on its head. From that moment on, it was just. In particular, the second period, it was back to the old terrible second period days. It wasn't fantastic after that. What was a really promising opening 10 minutes.
I mean, Adam, you were sat next to me. I didn't get there until a little way through the second period due to work.
It basically all went wrong when you got there.
Yes, it's all my fault, as it usually is. But Adam, you were pretty scathing on Saturday night. Have you calmed down a bit since?
Oh yeah, I've calmed down. I think I agree with Anne. I mean, it didn't start off particularly badly. I think we had 19 shots on Nye, the netminder, in the first period, and I think with a bit more luck, we might have scored a few more than we did. But it's just strange how and Ant alluded to it in what he just said there, how the team suddenly just switched off after after sort of gave the puck away on the power play by the boards, and Braehead broke away and scored. We just seemed to become a different team. It was incredible that the marked change from how we were in the first period, and we weren't brilliant in the first period, but I thought, it was a reasonable period of hockey from the Panthers, but we were really, really bad after that, and obviously Braehead capitalised on that, and started to take the game to us. But we were certainly shooting ourselves in the foot, left, right, and centre on Saturday night.
Now, Andy, I think you're probably going to come in with a slightly different opinion, because you were quite vocal in our WhatsApp group after the game about fans booing and things aren't all that bad, but surely you've got to admit it wasn't a great performance by Panthers.
No, not at all. It was poor. I've got no qualms with people saying that wasn't a good game of hockey to watch or a good performance by Panthers, because it wasn't. But but we're what, 4 games into the league season now, league campaign. We're 2 points off the top. We're sitting in third, I think it is. I just thought the booing was sort of incredibly early in the season. But in my opinion, obviously not in everyone's opinion, because there was an awful lot of it. So each to their own, and that's no issue. I think one of the things that we've sort of both touched on, that I do agree with, is that I don't think it was as bad at the start of the game. And there were things that were shockingly poor. There were things that were terribly bad. I just think that overall, there's 2 areas of the game, and ultimately they're incredibly crucial areas of the game, don't get me wrong, that sort of completely went apart, and that is our shooting, because to have that many shots and not win a game isn't great. We should have, the amount of opportunities we had, we should have hit 5 or 6 goals realistically. But we just couldn't get it past a very good netminder, don't get me wrong. But, he had an awful lot of time to see an awful lot of the shots. So I think that our attack needs to click, needs to gel. And I'd like to think that it's one of them things where, someone will get in a bit of a groove, and as soon as one goes in, you might see a few more go in for some of the players. Realistically, you look at our start in the domestic campaign, and if it wasn't for Schaller, Farmer, and Pellini, we'd be looking incredibly light in goal scoring. So that's a slight concern at the moment, that players need to start chipping in with goals and points, and hopefully fairly soon. The other thing that was sort of, which has been touched upon, is the defending. Now, the first goal is a terrible. It's a missed timed pass, in the sense that Sauvé goes to make a D-to-D pass, but sort of fluffs his lines a little bit, and it goes straight to Peacock, I think it was.
It actually came off the linesman. It looked at from the highlights.
I just thought he'd fluffed. Fair enough, but I just thought he'd fluffed it. They go one way and score. The second goal, I think Lakovic had a really shift to forget, in the sense that I think he gave it away twice, and in the end it leads to a goal. And it was just the defending in general was incredibly frantic and desperate at times where it really didn't need to be. There were so many opportunities and so many times where, relatively simple plays and simple passes and stuff like that were sort of just not happening, and it meant that defending as a team, it wasn't just for defenders, but defending as a team meant that players were just constantly all over the place, and they weren't in any sort of rhythm, they weren't in any sort of positions or anything like that. It was just like skating around like headless chickens a lot of the time, and ultimately we lost the game, and we lost the game pretty comfortably, albeit with an empty net goal. But Braehead was certainly good for the win, and I just think that it's still early doors. There's still a lot of hockey to be played, but at the moment, currently the way things are going, we need to seriously see some more input and some better play from more lines than just one. I think obviously he's not on tonight, but one of the things Aaron sent as a message was saying that if it wasn't for the Brits on Saturday night, it could have been an awful lot worse. And I agree, because I mentioned Lakovic had a bad shift, but other than that, I thought he had a good game. And the rest of the Brits sort of kept us in it, as it were. And that's, there's going to be games where that happens, don't get me wrong, but it shouldn't be seemingly sort of almost everybody having off nights apart from the Brits. And ultimately, if it is, then we're going to lose a lot more games than we're going to win.
I mean, another player who didn't have a great night was netminder Mike Gardner. He didn't have a great game. I think we'd all admit that. But I was really, really surprised when 2 different people came up to me after the game and said, essentially the netminder's the problem. And I was really, really surprised that people are thinking like that, because yes, he had a bad night on Saturday, there's not denying that, but I think he's played very, very well this season so far. And one of the comments that we had come through on the Player of the Week form, where you can now leave comments, was about Garnett giving up so many rebounds. And I just say I was shocked, because for me, I think Mike Garnett's been one of our better players over the start of the league campaign, albeit not on Saturday. But I mean, what do you guys think, Adam?
I agree with you. I think that he's so far this season proven to be a good acquisition. He's a very, very steady, experienced netminder. But we're all going to have off nights, and he really did have a bad night on Saturday. But the thing I noticed on Saturday is that there didn't seem to be any coordination between the defence and Garnett. Garnett was making the first save, and I think he could have expected a bit more help from his defence on a couple of those goals. Where the puck's just bounced away, and it's gone to a Clan player who's put a rebound away. And I just think that the defence are equally as culpable, from my opinion, as Garnett was. I know Garnett ultimately lets the shots in, and he was pulled on Saturday, which is never nice for any netminder. But I think the defence need to hold their hands up and take some of the blame as well, and look at themselves in the mirror, because there were several opportunities, as Andy said, I think a few minutes ago, where there were great opportunities just to dump the puck out the zone, buy yourself a bit more time. But we were either trying to overskate it or make a really high risk pass, and we gave the puck away, and it was to our detriment, because it ended up with a puck in the back of our net. So I think people are maybe getting a little bit too fixated on Garnett. I think that if you look at his pedigree, he doesn't have anything really to prove. He's played at a very, really high level for the duration of his career, and I think over the course of the season we'll see why he's played at such a high level over the course of his career. So I think it's just a blip, just a bad night at the office for him. And I wasn't in Guildford the following night, but it doesn't seem to have had too bad a game there.
I mean, Ant, Garnett, I mean, do you think, like what a couple of people told me, that there's an issue with him?
I think he's the worst goalie we've had since Davis Parley. No, I'm clearly lying. I do like the look of him.
Since Davis Parley. It's just K Wall and Wheatman. Then there might be a case.
There's KSP as well.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Michelle Robinson.
He was all right.
Yeah, but anyway, I thought, there was a couple of the goals on Saturday he could have done better with. But like Adam's already alluded to, it's the defence, and I know we'll go on to talk about it. We played much better as a unit on yesterday than we did on Saturday. It's things like daft giveaways, and Andy mentioned it. It was scrambling when we didn't have to scramble, that sort of thing. It's and I thought they tightened up when Gospel came on, but Gospel, it was like almost putting Gospel in was like the kick up the backside that the defence needed.
I mean, Andy, any further thoughts?
One of the big rebound goals that they scored was that first goal of the game, and he's made a breakaway save, and it's given a rebound to someone for a tap in, admittedly, but he's made a rebound save. You can't, in my opinion, on a breakaway, if he makes a save, then great.
And he's put the puck to the side of the net as well, hasn't he?
Yeah,
he's not knocked the puck straight back down the slot for somebody else to come in and put it over his shoulder or whatever. I think he's done as much as he can there.
And that's the way I see it. At the end of the day, if you make a save on a breakaway, you've done all right for me in that aspect. So I don't know. I've seen a fair amount of the games we've played so far this season. I think I've only probably not seen 3, maybe 4 games out of everything, including all the pre-season and stuff. And I don't necessarily have an issue with it. I've not noticed that he's giving up any more rebounds than anybody else. I've not really noticed that he seems to be, weaker in certain areas or certain aspects of the game than anyone else we've ever seen before. The only thing I have noticed is that he seems to be, in my opinion, the best sort of passer netminder that we've had in a long, long time. Obviously, K-Wall was pretty good, but I do think that on the showings that we've seen with the puck on his stick, I think Garnett's probably going to be the best netminder I've seen at playing the puck and making passes. But as far as actual shots and saves go, I've like I say, I can't honestly say I've noticed him to be, any more sort of problematic or anything like that than anybody else. I think he's always going to be in a tough spot in the sense that he's the last line of defence. Ultimately, if you score a goal, you can argue that he's not done his job. But like everyone else has said, the goals that were scored on Saturday, there was nearly always somebody, or the whole defensive core as a team were just as culpable, in my opinion. And I think we've seen before, and it's funny that Ant mentioned Michelle Robinson, because we've seen before netminders that are suited to teams, and they don't become bad netminders overnight. And we signed Michelle Robinson from Edinburgh when I think they were in last place and they were shipping in goals left, right and centre. And we signed him, and don't get me wrong, he wasn't the world's best netminder, but he certainly wasn't a bad netminder for us. And obviously on the flip side, the year, in fact I think it might have been the year previous, was when we signed Rasta, and we won the playoffs, and he was an instant legend and a hero. And then the year after, we re-signed him, and he came back, and he'd been found out basically, and wasn't as good as he was in his first season. So we ended up getting rid of him. So these guys don't become bad overnight, and I just think that it will take time, particularly for a netminder, to settle in with the defence and the team in front of them. But as far as him being the weak point, or being one of the worst netminders that we've had, for me is way wide of a mark.
I think the one thing, and it's interesting that Andy's picked up on the passing bit. That certainly gives us a quicker break, a chance for a quicker break. But the one thing that certainly yesterday that people were chatting and when there was sat around me was everybody's getting very nervous when he's coming out to play the puck, or he's going behind the net to play the puck. And who was the last goalie we had that was of a similar vein? He didn't turn out too bad, did he, Mr. Kowalski? So I think we won a trophy or two in his time. So who knows? I mean, we are in a very, very, very early days still. We've only played 4 league games. We're not setting things alight, and there are obvious issues. But is it the end of the world? Not yet.
Okay. As for the Braehead clan, they came into the NIC. They're still waiting on 2 imports. Good value for their win, I thought. But their netminder, Ryan Nye, was simply exceptional. 50 saves he made on Saturday night from the 53 shots that Panthers had. I mean, Andy, he's a good netminder.
Oh, definitely. He looked. I was talking to a friend before the game, and he said about who's the netminder and how are Braehead and stuff like that. And I said that in pre-season, I thought both Ryan Nye and Gary Russell played very well in the periods and a half that they played in pre-season. And he proved again that he's a very good netminder. He made some very good saves. He made he made a fair few routine saves, don't get me wrong, but he still has to make them. And let's be honest, any netminder who makes 50, to be fair, any netminder who makes sort of 30 plus saves invariably has had a good night. So to have 50 plus saves, just proved how good value he was for man of a match. And I think Braehead, I agree. I think Braehead played really well. I thought they were good. I thought they had a game plan that they stuck to. And they certainly deserved the win. There was certainly, to quote the Burn coach's words, the best team on the night wins a game of hockey, and it certainly was the case on Saturday night, that's for sure.
Yeah. Okay, we are going to move on to Sunday night. Panthers taking on the Guildford Flames at the Spectrum in Guildford. A 3-2 penalty shots victory for the Panthers. Panthers goals from Brett Pellini and Mark Delago. Flames scoring through Liam Stewart and John Dunbar. Josh Schaller scoring the winning penalty shot for Panthers. There's been no highlights as yet, so none of us have seen it except for Antoine Marie-Jeanne, who travelled down to Guildford to watch the game last night. So this is going to be a bit of an exclusive one-on-one with me and AMJ. So settle in.
Oh God!
So just
people turning off the dials right away.
So give us the summary. How was the game?
It was certainly much better than defensively than yesterday than we were on Saturday. They seemed more of a unit. There was more cohesion. They seemed to more stability. We dominated, absolutely dominated from start to finish. Flames had pockets where they were on top, mainly on a power play, but we defended well. We're looking to hit on the break. We had plenty of pace, but my God. Mike Will, absolute brick wall last night. I'm not kidding. I did the Panthers Hockey Live coverage as well, and I put on that he got their man of the match and got a standing ovation from all the fans, and it was one of the biggest cheers of the game when that was announced. He was absolutely superb, and it's just one of those you could almost see the players just sort of looking at each other and going, what do we have to do? We scored 2 very, very good goals, and unfortunately we were caught napping at the end.
I'll ask all of you this one, because Panthers with over 50 shots again, so 107 shots over the weekend, 54 shots in Guildford last night. Adam, is that a worry that we've had 107 shots but only scored 5 goals? I'm not counting the penalty shots in that.
No. I suppose it is in some sense, but then, if you're going to have netminders play out of their skins, then there isn't really much anyone that takes a shot can do about that. There have been times this season where I've thought some of our shot-making decisions and selections have been a bit dodgy, and we might have, hung onto the puck a little bit too long, or maybe not hung onto the puck long enough in some instances. And in the end, it's given a netminder an easier opportunity to make a save. But certainly, on going back to Saturday just very briefly, I think Nye played very, very well. I'm not going to say anything to the contrary about that. But a lot of the shots were, what you might call simple shots for him to deal with, and he saw a lot of rubber, but obviously there weren't many quality shots that troubled him. But when there were quality shots, he did well with those. Last night, from what I gather and from what Ant said, Mike Will stood on his head, and if that happens, then what can you do? You take the shot. It can be a great shot, can be going in the top corner or low down by the base of the post. And a netminder will find a way to keep it out. Again, it might just be one of those weekends where, we come up against 2 fairly hot netminders. Will was standing in, wasn't he, last night for Brian Stewart? So yes. No doubt he wanted to, make an impression. So the next time that his coach calls upon him, he'll have no hesitation in doing that. And I'm sure that, after last night's performance, Paul Dixon will have no problem at all if he needs to put Mike Will in the net for the next game. Maybe it was just one of those, quirky, freakish weekends where, we do have plenty of shots on the other side's netminders, but sadly we just can't quite convert them. I mean, if it happens next weekend and then the weekend after, then yeah, I suppose you need to question the skills and the abilities of our forwards, and start asking questions about whether they're sort of taking the right shots or whether they're, not seeing parts of the net where they need to be putting the puck towards.
Yeah, okay. And how was it down there? I mean, obviously Guildford, brand new into the Elite League, quite compact and bijou rink, but it looked like it had some atmosphere going there.
Certainly was from the away fans. Guildford, I thought their fans were particularly quiet last night until they got their first goal, and then all of a sudden momentum's with them, and the noise came. But yeah, it's an interesting place to go. It's in the middle of a sports centre. You've got a swimming pool across the other side. You're not allowed to take any alcoholic drinks into the rink with you. And the away fans, we've got a little sort of standing corner at the corner of the rink. But they have a couple of decent video walls where they actually show the game as well. So I would encourage everybody to go, because it's certainly it reminded me a bit of Hull, but not as versatile.
And there's nothing.
Only having a swimming pool and stuff like that makes it more versatile.
It was. I mean, it is. It was. I mean, their stewards and everything were fantastic with us last night. Our coach arrived. We were delayed getting in because of traffic. But as soon as we got in, we're sort of looking around as like signage says, "Oh, you need to go down there," but the steward's like, "Let's have a look at your ticket, right? Follow me," and literally, they're escorting you. So, right, go through those doors and take the next right, that sort of thing. They were really, really friendly, and that was really nice. Their mascot seems like he's up for a bit of fun. There's plenty of fans, interacting with him last night as well. The announcer, I thought she was very good, but where you are in the corner, it's not the clearest of sound. So maybe that's something they could look at. But overall, we've got another game against them coming up later in the year. I would encourage everybody to get down. It's certainly something a little bit different than what we used to, and not necessarily a bad thing.
Okay. Right, we're going to look at some of your tweets that you sent in, and we've had absolutely loads in, along with comments that we had on our Player of the Week poll. We'll be revealing the Player of the Week a little bit later on. But some of the tweets that we had come through, and I'm going to start with one about the power play, because Tina's done some stats for us. She's not on tonight, but she sent through some stats for us to look at over the weekend. And the power play this weekend, no goals from 10 opportunities. And we've had a tweet from Martin Lowe who says, "Interested to know thoughts on the power play. We struggle to set up every power play, yet other teams create space. It's been the same for a few years." I mean, Andy, your thoughts on
that? I mentioned on a previous show about the year we won the league. We were head and shoulders. Our special teams were absolutely fantastic, and I think they were top of both, pentakill and the power play. And since then, it's something that we haven't had. We've been very good penalty killing wise over the past couple of years, but our power play hasn't been as good as it was that season. I tend to think that sometimes it's not quite as bad as it perhaps is made out to be, in the sense that I appreciate that when it looks bad, it looks incredibly bad, but I certainly thought last season, probably the season before, rather than last season, perhaps, it didn't particularly look pretty, but we were still getting a relatively decent percentage of power play goals from our chances. But none from 10 is not a good ratio, and obviously something needs to be done in that sense, because it's such a pivotal part of the game. It's such an integral part, and such a massive swing. Games literally can be won and lost on on special teams, and if we've had 10 opportunities with an extra man over the weekend and we've not been able to convert any of them, then obviously something there isn't going right, and obviously it's something that they must have worked on already, and they will be working on more so going down the line, because ultimately that's not going to please anyone, the players, the coaches, and certainly not as fans. So I certainly think that it will click at a point. But obviously we need it to be sort of sooner rather than later. And just very quickly touching on what was said in the question you asked Adam regarding like the shooting, and is it something to be worried about? It is, in the sense that our shot ratio isn't great, and obviously this ties in with the power play particularly. But I do sort of have the opinion that I will feel sorry for the team that we play when it does finally click, because we are creating chances, but we're just, that final pass is just going to skates, or it's not going to the tape and stuff like that.
Yeah, just stop you there, because another tweet we had in from Rodney Rouse. He says, disappointing, need to get back to basics and learn which side line mates hold their sticks and complete passes tape to tape and not skates. So I just thought I'd bring that in, because it totally backs up what you said.
In my opinion, he's absolutely right. There was more than one occasion, certainly on Saturday night, where we had a shot and it was saved relatively comfortably. The opportunity was a very good scoring chance, but because the pass wasn't great to the shooter, it meant that Ryan Nye had an awful lot more time to get himself set, get his angles right, and make the save. And I do think with regards to power play particularly, it's the puck movement and the passing is such a pivotal part, because it's all well and good having a shot from a decent area, but if you've been stood there for 5 minutes and you've had the puck for ages before you take the shot, it's no good to anyone. The passing needs to be crisper, it needs to be faster, and it needs to be sharper. And I do think it will come good with the players that we've got and the talent that we've got. But like I said, certainly at the moment it is a slight worry, and it's something that hopefully will be ironed out sooner rather than later.
One of the comments that we got from the Player of the Week poll, it says, all Brits who ice deserve credit for keeping the wheels rolling, but Betteridge in particular, a loss to a weakened Clan and then pipping the Flames on penalties with their backup in goal is concerning, which we've already covered. Neil Bissett says, early days, but where is the European team who looks so good? I think we'd all like to know that one, to be honest. James Vickers, he says, we are trying to apply a more aggressive and speedy style of play we're not used to seeing, but the results not coming yet. I mean, Adam, your take on that?
Yeah, I think, again, I'm not too concerned, because the season's a long time, and I think Andy mentioned earlier that we're not that badly positioned in the league, are we?
No,
I know we've had a bit of a mixed weekend, but we came out of it with 2 points by hook or by crook, and we're still very much at the right end of the league, and I mean, you've just got to have confidence in the coach, haven't you? That he's learning about his players every day. We had an incredible start to the season, with some memorable games in the CHL, and maybe the players have found it difficult to try and adjust to a very different style of hockey that they've been involved in, that sort of veers between a much more technical game when they play the European sides against a much faster in your face sort of brand of hockey against the Braeheads and Guildfords of this world. So the season's a long learning curve. I mean, obviously you need to learn quickly, because you need to get into the high gears pretty soon into the season. But I'm not concerned yet. I think we haven't seen the best of some players, but some players are slow starters, and when they see more of the elite league sort of style of play and the calibre of hockey, then we might start to see the players become a bit more confident in what they can and can't do, and hopefully we'll see we'll see some of them shine as the season goes on.
Rob Maron, he says, although individual mistakes cost us Saturday, overall we're not scoring enough. Can't expect to win games when only scoring 1 or 2 goals. Lee Constable, Saturday, very poor. 2 points on Sunday at least. Our power play needs fixing. 5 games, 29 power plays and 2 goals. We need more goals in general, however, the league is wide open. Teams are dropping points everywhere. At the moment, all teams look to be blowing hot and cold. It will be close. I think I can quite agree with that one at this point in the season. Panthers banter. Sheffield have lost twice like us. Cardiff lost once and twice in the Challenge Cup. Belfast the team to beat so far. Don't panic yet. So Andy Thornton, which sort of emphasises what has been said. Too many unforced D errors, failure to clear out in front of the net, poor power play success percentage, poor shot to goal conversion percentage, but fixable with this team. Interesting one here from Steve Wilkinson. And Andy, I'll come to you with this one. The club seriously needs someone to lead the team and start making players accountable for their performances. That's the captain's job. Now, I assume Steve's having a go at Steve Lee here with that. I've got to say, I think Steve Lee so far has been excellent this season. I think he's been much improved. He was much maligned last season, but I don't think he can take much criticism for the way he's played so far. And I think a lot of that is to do with having that C on his chest. It's made him raise his game. And I personally think that criticism of Steve Lee is quite unfair.
Yeah, I do too. It's the captaincy will always spark debate, because as fans you want to see your Jordan Foxes, your Danny Myers, those type of players, in the sense that they are, they talk the talk, they're outspoken, they're always seen to be doing something on the ice, that sort of thing. But a lot of the times, we don't see what goes on behind the scenes. We don't see, what happens at training and who talks in the locker room and stuff like that. And I always felt one of the things that always used to sort of really annoy me was the sort of the flack that Clarkey got when he was captain. Saying, he's not the type of player that you want as a captain because he's not vocal enough, and you don't see him talking out on the ice, or when he has a bad game it looks like he's not kept trying and stuff like that and stuff. But I mean, one of the things I saw, I can't remember if it was today or late last night, regarding his 700th point was what McGrattan had tweeted, saying that he was a great teammate and a great guy. Now, I appreciate that, in some certain circumstances, there's a fair chance that, if you think someone's a great guy and a great teammate and stuff, there's a fair chance that they might be buying you more rounds than you can handle, or stuff like that. But with someone like a David Clarke, there's a real, he's a dedicated professional, and I get the exact same sort of feeling I get with David Clarke as captain is what I'm getting with Stevie Lee. He's very composed. He's very calm. I've noticed that he is talking to the refs an awful lot more than we've seen in the past captains. And his game has changed considerably for the better. Now, obviously, because he's not skating around like a headless chicken, throwing hits constantly, or scoring 30 points, 40 points a season, it's really difficult, because I appreciate that from a fan's perspective, the epitome of captain that we have seen as Panthers fans will be Jordan Fox, in the sense that we won the league with him, so that's a pretty decent start straight away. But obviously his style of play was endearing, in the sense that he hit frequently, he scored fantastic goals, he was a real playmaker at times, and he was a player that sort of, grafted and had a style of play that everybody loved. Now, you're not always going to have a player like that as a captain. And yes, if you've got a player like that, you've got every right to make him captain. But I certainly think the criticism, like I say, of Stevie Lee at the moment in that regards is, in my opinion, completely unfair, because I just think that his game has improved considerably, and I think the added responsibilities helped. And I just think that yes, you need leaders, and you need a captain that works for the team. But I think that kind of role that Steve Wilkinson suggests isn't necessarily the captain's role as such. Now, I'm not saying that as captain it means that you can just call it in whenever you want because you're the captain, but there are players on the team that you should be able to count on to sort of put the team on their back and really sort of force the issue. Players that are, skating their tail off for a few shifts to try and get the momentum back in the game. You look at the year when we had someone like Cam Jansen, in the sense that he wasn't captain, but if the game was getting away from us, you knew that he would be sent out with a clear purpose of getting everything back on side, getting the fans back in the game, making hits, just skating round. You look at players like Benny and Matt Francis, players like that. They were the type of players that you could count on to graft for you. Now, Brandon Benedict made a very good alternate captain and was captain a couple of times, I think, when players were injured and stuff. But it doesn't necessarily have to be the captain that sort of plays that role of saying, you know what, this isn't good enough, I'm going to take the game by the scruff of the neck and sort of almost single-handedly set the tone. You're not realistically going to get that from a Stevie Lee type player, but you should be able to get that from somebody else within that team. There's plenty of players within that team that you should be able to expect that from. But I just think to expect it from Stevie Lee as a player, it's not really that his style. It never really has been. But to criticise him as a captain, to me, is just incredibly unfair so far.
Okay. Another couple of tweets before we move on. Stephen Elliott, 2 points, made hard work of it, but no team running away with the league yet or making a consistent start. Nothing to worry about just yet. Martin Horner says defence looking very poor this weekend, hardly any coverage around the goal. And I want to finish on this one, which will provide a talking point. It comes from Steve Scar. He says, disappointed but still some positive signs. Power play needs major work. Still don't think Corey has a clue who works well with who as yet. And it's his final point that I want to talk about. Mosey equals forward. Now, I agree entirely with that. I honestly think that Evan Mosey is a bit wasted on defence. I think he would be much better using his explosive speed in the forward lines. And I think subtly, when you read what he's been putting on social media over the past couple of weeks, Evan himself probably feels exactly the same. I'll put this one to all of you, and we've not heard from you for a while. So, Evan Mosey, forward or defenceman?
He played forward yesterday.
Yeah,
Mosey was on forward yesterday. Lindhagen moved back to defence.
And how did that work out?
I've already said we looked a bit more solid and compact in the defence, and Mosey certainly caused problems with his speed going forward. I think the only thing you lose, probably the biggest thing you lose when you move Lindhagen back to D is one of our main sort of face-off people. So I'm assuming that's probably why he was preferred to play up top rather than Mosey. But yeah, certainly last night, it seemed to be we've talked about the problems that we've had in defence and what have you, but they seemed to be a bit more of a unit yesterday. And Mosey was able to sort of bomb forward and cause havoc without having to worry about whether or not he was going to get caught on a break.
Okay, so thanks very much to everyone who sent their tweets in to us over the past 24 hours. Sorry if we haven't read yours out. We did have an awful lot of tweets, so we couldn't possibly spend time reading them all out, but thank you anyway if you did send one in. Just one more thing to talk about before we get on to Player of the Week, and as was mentioned there, David Clark with his 700th Elite League point, with the first assist on the first goal on Saturday night. Guys, I mean, just an absolute legend, and his legend continues to grow.
Yes.
Yep, absolutely agree with you. 100% Panthers legend.
Yeah.
Retire number 5 when he's retired.
Yeah.
Totally.
Totally.
It'll be the next number to be hanging above the bear thing.
And fully deserved it will be too. So congratulations, Clarkey, on your 700 points. Now on to Player of the Week. Thank you very much to all those who voted in our Player of the Week poll once again. So it is a British top 3. I can tell you exclusively right now. So in third place is Robert Farmer. Second place is Ollie Betteridge. And in first place, step forward Sam Gospel, who wins the Player of the Week after stepping into the nets on Saturday night and not conceding a goal. Played very, very well. So well done, Sam Gospel. You are the Cat's Whiskers Panthers Player of the Week. Guys, thoughts on that?
Yeah, he did really well when he came in to replace Garnett on Saturday. I mean, he gave us a chance to win the game, and you can't really ask for any more than that from your backup netminder. And, you know, he always looks composed. I think he's a very talented young British netminder, and I hope that, you know, he does see a reasonable amount of ice time this season. I think, you know, Garnett will need a rest from time to time. And, you know, I've got every confidence that Gospel will be able to, you know, fill the goal and, you know, give it his best shot.
Okay, so congratulations to Sam. The Nottingham Lions.
He certainly seemed to have fun sat in the Guildford with the Guildford fans last night, because the benches are a little bit smaller. So we got like 2 rows of players in ours, and there was no room for Sam to be in there, so he had to sit with the fans with the beanie hat on. I'm sure he loved that.
I actually heard that Petr Cech was at the game last night, apparently. So, yeah. Oh, there you go.
Can he skate?
I believe he has played in net before in charity
before.
games. Yeah. So, yeah. Right. Anyway,
sign him up as a third netminder.
Well, yeah.
We've got a slot.
The Nottingham Lions, unfortunately, got another defeat last night as they lost 4-1 in Whitley to the Whitley Warriors. Mark Levers scoring the Lions' goal. I'll be hopefully speaking to Matt Bradbury a little later, which will be on Audio Boom, which you can access through the Nottingham Lions Twitter feed. Okay, moving on to the rest of the Elite League weekend results. On Saturday night, Challenge Cup, Milton Keynes 5, Cardiff 2, and Dundee 4, Edinburgh 3 after a shootout. In the Elite League, Belfast 3, Sheffield 1, Manchester 6, Guildford 5 after overtime, and 5-2 Coventry 0. On Sunday, Challenge Cup, Coventry 4, Milton Keynes 7. Elite League, Sheffield 0, Belfast 2. We'll be talking about that one a little later. Cardiff 1, Manchester 6. Edinburgh 1, Braehead 3. So good weekends for Belfast, Braehead, Milton Keynes and Manchester, all with 4 points. Not a great weekend for Cardiff, losing both games. I mean, 6-1. That is a hell of a performance by Manchester, and you know they seem to be enjoying their time at the top of the league. Anyone?
I think we're all shocked.
Well, I was waiting for a cue.
All right, go on then.
Well, yeah, I mean they seem to be good value for it as well. It's not just a case of you know they're sort of grinding out, you know, low scoring edgy affairs. They're scoring a ton of goals. And you know, I mean, to go into Cardiff and win by that scoreline is a fantastic result for anybody. Realistically, if Cardiff won 6-1 at home, it's a fantastic result. So for an away team to come into such a formidable place, granted it's not the BBT, but they've proved last season, but it's still going to be a stronghold down there. For anyone to travel and get that kind of result down there is fantastic, and it's they're clear favourites in most people's eyes. Cardiff are, so from a league perspective, it's a fantastic result for everybody else as well as Manchester, because it also gives people that feeling of they are beatable down there, and obviously it's 2 points that they've lost as well. So. Manchester, like I say, they seem incredibly good value. I mean, they scored 12 goals this weekend. They're like the polar opposite of us in the sense that they seem to be scoring for fun, whereas we're struggling to score goals. So it's probably not a great time to play them, really, is it?
Yeah, and also a great weekend for Manchester coach Ryan Finty. Many congratulations to him and his wife Emma on the birth of their daughter, who was born on Saturday night. So well done, Ryan. Enjoy the sleepless nights that you've got coming up. Moving on to some of the other talking points from the weekend. And Paul Crowder of Cardiff Devils with a baseball bat swing in Milton Keynes. It was caught on camera. It was all over social media on Saturday night. I mean, we all saw it. What did you make of it? Because there's been nothing as yet from DOPS. I believe there was only a 2-minute penalty as well for it. Andy, you was pretty angry about this.
Well, I just think that it's everything that's wrong with DOPS, because it shouldn't be up to Milton Keynes to request a review for that kind of incident. I mean, DOP stands for the Department of Player Safety. Now, if they're not gonna act upon something like this on the back of just seeing it, then they really aren't interested in safety whatsoever. It's a money-making scheme in the sense that if Milton Keynes want to pay for it to be reviewed, we'll review it, and that's not the way it should work. I appreciate that we're not, the world's biggest league. We don't have an abundance of people watching, every game and stuff like that. But incidents should be reviewed if they are dangerous, whether someone requests it or not. And something like this is appalling in the sense that the fact that he's been given a penalty and it was only 2 minutes means that it's not automatically reviewed because it wasn't a major penalty. And the fact, if Milton Keynes decide, we're not going to pay for it, and it's not going to affect us in the long run because, I don't know the fixtures, but they might not play Cardiff again in the next 6 games or whatever, then why would they pay that money just to help other teams and other people out? It's ridiculous that that's the system that we operate in this league, to be honest, because if they want to run a system like that, then fair enough, but it shouldn't be called the Department of Player Safety, because to protect player safety, they need to be clamping down on incidents like this, whether it's paid for or not. With regards to the actual incident itself, it's pretty poor. I mean, it's up there with the Kelsey Wilson incident. It's up there with in the NHL, Chris Simon and Ryan Holweg. It's a real nasty, deliberate act. It's a deliberate slash. There's no two ways about it. Heat of the moment, I'm sure it was, and I'm sure that the bloke who he slashed had probably done something or said something that Paul Crowder didn't like. But you cannot justify that whatsoever. And it's a really appalling thing. And with regards to the actual DOPS thing, it just really winds me up that will probably not get anything because Milton Keynes aren't going to review it, and that isn't a dig at Milton Keynes in the slightest, because like I say, if it was my club and it's not going to affect me, why should I have to pay a considerable amount of money just to have something like that reviewed? That should be reviewed automatically, hands down.
Agree entirely. Absolutely agree entirely. Also, more fun and games in Sheffield on Sunday night. Belfast beating Sheffield on Saturday 3-1 at the SSE Arena. The return match at Sheffield Arena on Sunday night finished with Belfast winning 2-0. A lot of controversy coming from this game. To list them all out, there was a case that Colin Shields' opening goal was a high stick. From looking at the highlights, I would say no, it's not. Also, Stephen Murphy going off injured. Colton Fretter getting a 5+ game penalty for slashing, which led to Murphy being taken off. And then Paul Thompson's comments at the end of the game on an interview where he called crappy officials, crappy ice, and crappy play. But what gets me with that is how can you blame the officials and the ice when your team doesn't score any goals? If your team doesn't score any goals, then you ain't going to win many games, Paul. That's how it works. And forgive me, but crappy ice, it's the same for both teams because they both play on it. So, Ant, your thoughts on that? Because I was completely and utterly flabbergasted when I saw that interview.
How can I put this politely?
It's Sheffield.
I have had a chance to watch the highlights, and they are there's plenty of incidents in the game that you could potentially say, if they were dealt with differently, would things have happened later on? I don't know. The slash on Murphy, which I'm sure we'll come on to. Yes, there is contact with his hand, but he's going for the puck. I don't think for a minute that's worthy of a match penalty for that, even if there was an injury. However, you see it on their highlights. Every time they have the chance to go anywhere near the opposition goalie, they're doing it. They're leaving sticks in. Nelson went flying into him into Murphy in the second period. Completely poleaxed him. It's a Tomo tactic. We all know that. He was the same back in Coventry, and then to come out afterwards and basically get have a proper Mardy. And to say the things he did, you can't do that. There's ways of being angry at your team and angry at the performance and angry at incidents that have happened during the game without basically coming out and calling the officials inept, and that's what he did. Now they did introduce fines and stuff last year, but we've not heard anything. I can't imagine anything will happen. And like you said, Jono, the ice is the same for both people. They started to have ice problems, last year. So is there an issue with the ice plant in Sheffield? We all know from comments that have been made over the summer and what have you. I don't think the relationship between the Sheffield Arena and the Sheffield Steelers is very good at the moment. But both teams have got to play on that. So you can't blame the ice. I just think Tom just needs to maybe if he's that het up after the game, maybe it's best you put your number 2 out, get him to do it. Fergie used to do that with Mike Phelan all the time. If because he knew full well he was going to say something wrong, I best not say anything at all. I'll send Mickey out, and he can do it diplomatically.
Andy, harsh on Fretter?
Possibly. It's difficult to see without the camera angle from behind the goal, which isn't on the highlights. You can't see where the puck is. I imagine that that Fretter can see the puck. But ultimately, if you miss the puck and hit the goalie's hand or arm or wherever or whatever he's done, if you don't get the puck but you get the netminder, then it doesn't matter that you can see it. You've not got it. So it is difficult to tell from the angle that we've seen, that we've been given. But if what I will say is, it's not just one attempt he has at the puck. He has a couple. Now, obviously, from what I can deduce from the angle and from what I've seen, it appears that the initial sort of attempt by Thretter is the one that causes the injury, if it is indeed the slash that's caused the injury, which to me looks like it could be sort of like his blocker hand perhaps, or like fingers or something like that perhaps, which would indicate that it would be a slash that's caused that. Now,
and it is in the rule book that if a slash causes an injury, it is a game misconduct penalty.
Yeah, and that's you can't argue with that. Just no matter what you think at the time, and no matter how angry you are, if them's the rules, them's the rules, and
that's it. And the referee, who is getting a lot of criticism, Stefan Hogarth, he is, for me, if that's the case, has applied the rules correctly. So how on earth can you criticise him? That's it, and I to harp on, the way that Tomo did in my interview regarding, the officiating, is, I just think, particularly with things like that, I'm amazed they've put that out. To be honest, I'm amazed that they've actually said, yeah, we'll release that now, without thinking about things like, well, shall we perhaps wait and see the highlights, or see what happened, that we got on the camera and stuff like that. Because if it comes out from the highlights that quite clearly Carlton Fretters slashed him and Stephen Murphy's injured, and all the other decisions were right, then not only does it make the interview ridiculous in the sense that the things that he's saying is pretty silly, really, but it's also completely wrong. And I just think that I'm amazed that they actually put something like that out, and whether it's been put out there for effect, in the sense that they're saying, well, you know what, we need to do something about the officiating, so I'm going to go on a tirade and slag it off, and we will broadcast it because that's our intention, that's our goal. Fair enough, but there's got to be a better way to do it, surely. But I just think if the slash is what's injured Stephen Murphy, and the rules say if a slash injures a player, then it's an automatic game penalty, then what can they possibly moan about?
I must admit, I think I need to download the rule book, because I wasn't aware that if there was a slash that caused an injury, it was a penalty. So thanks for letting me know that, Jono.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe you should show Tomo the rule book.
It is something. I've said it a lot of times on this podcast, but you can download the IIHF rule book on a PDF file for free, and I did it, and I've referred to it in games before, and you just think, oh yeah, actually, the referees made the right call. So, before you go spouting off on social media, and I include all fans in this because we're all guilty of it, just have a read of the rule book and educate yourself a little bit. Because
not fun though, is it?
Well, yeah, I know, but the thing is, I've seen so much bile towards Stefan Hogarth from Sheffield fans today, and it's like, well, I looked at the highlights and I just thought, you know what? I think he's called a lot of these quite right. There was a bad check to the head on Colton Fretter earlier in the game. I forget which Belfast player did it, but it was a check to the head. And I think, if anything, he could probably give him more than a 2+10 that he did for a check to the head. I think he would have been quite justified in giving a 5+ game. But I think because Fretter got straight back up again, that might have changed his judgment somewhat. But I just think when and it's like you say, Andy, he shouldn't have been allowed on camera giving that interview. But and I know this is probably not going to go down well in Sheffield, but I think it needs to be said, when the owner is the Elite League chairman, then maybe you can say things like that and not worry about what's going to happen. And until that changes, that accusation is always going to be put forward. I'm sorry, but Sheffield fans are probably screaming at this podcast, the ones that are listening right now, but it's a fact. Tony Smith is the league chairman, and he's also the owner of the Sheffield Steelers. And if anything, if Paul Thompson doesn't get a fine, or if Paul Thompson gets away with it, then those accusations are going to be levelled at you. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. And it would be the same if Neil Black was the chairman of the Elite League. Corey Nielsen came out and said things like that, which he doesn't. But that's a different story. So just accept it. It's not the officials' fault if your forwards aren't scoring goals, and that's your problem. Your forwards aren't scoring goals, so you're going to lose a game. Simple as that.
Interestingly, were they 1 for 10 on the power play as well? Sort of hot about power plays and ours being bad.
They were 0 for 8 yesterday. So yeah, this terrible official actually gave them 8 power plays. So there you go. Anyway, I think we'll leave the Elite League there.
I've just downloaded the rulebook, by the way.
Yeah.
It took about 10 seconds.
Yeah. Just to say, before we go on to this week's games, Claire Freeman, who's been on the podcast a couple of times, been involved with the Forecast podcast in Manchester and Hockey Night in Manchester, has announced she's leaving the Manchester Storm and the BBC to set up on their own. So we just want to, from everyone here at the Cat's Whiskers, just wish her all the very, very best of luck in her new venture. Okay, 2 games for the Panthers coming up this week. On Wednesday night, Panthers face the Belfast Giants, who will be full of confidence after 2 victories over the weekend against Sheffield, and then on Saturday face the Manchester Storm in a Challenge Cup game. So starting with that Belfast game, I mean, has it become a must-win game, Adam?
It'd be nice to win. It's always nice to win, but I think it's more to do with the performance. Everybody wants the 2 points from the game, but I think there's quite a few fans that have only seen the Panthers on Saturday of the 2 weekend games that will be thinking, well, do we really want to play badly twice at home consecutively? No. So they'll be expecting a real reaction from the team, and Belfast are doing really well at the moment. I think they're the form team in the league, aren't they? So it's going to be a fascinating matchup. They've got some good players, but we've got some good players, and I think that maybe the game against Belfast is where some of our import forwards start to set higher standards and start to shine. So I think that it'll be a good game hopefully on Wednesday. I think it would do our confidence the world of good to win at home, and Belfast are a good side, so it will be difficult to win convincingly. But if we could win convincingly on Wednesday, I think that might allay some of the fears that are within the fan base at the moment about some of the problems we've got with the defence and with the power play not clicking, and maybe people that are a little bit dissatisfied with the standard of net minding. So I hope on Wednesday that we see a positive Panthers performance, and we take the game to Belfast, and hopefully our forwards have a little bit more luck in front of goal, and can get a few pucks past. Well, I expect it'll be Jackson Whistle, won't it? If Murphy's injured,
I doubt very much that Stephen Murphy will be playing.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a good game, and hopefully Panthers can get a win, and that'll really make the league table look a lot more positive from a Nottingham Panthers point of view.
I remember saying last week about Belfast that they conceded, I think, 20 goals in 5 games. They must have been listening, because then they go and concede just 1 in 2 this weekend. So we really don't know what to expect from them.
No, and based on our performances the last couple of weeks. Where are the goals going to come from? This could be a very, 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 very tight game. Or knowing how these things go, we'll probably hammer them 10-0. We can only hope, eh? I just hope again. We touched on it again last week, and I meant to say it earlier. The one thing again for us we've been guilty of going forward is we're overplaying it again. Again, I'm saying the word again all the time, and I don't want to say it anymore. So I'm just going to shut up because I don't know what I'm talking about.
Andy, Belfast Panthers games always interesting clashes, but this for so early in the season, it's a very intriguing one. It's got a lot riding on it.
Well, it's got 2 points riding on it, which is the same as every other league game. But I know exactly what you mean. It's going to be it's going to be used as a bit of a benchmark in the sense that it's a real chance to test ourselves against one of our conference rivals, against one of the teams that we expect will be challenging at the top of the league. And I don't think it's must win in the sense that it's still so early in the season, but I do think that it's a real test for us to see just where we are at this early stage of the season. If we win this game, all is forgiven. If we lose this game, we've got to pick it back up again in the league and play catch up a little bit. But it's like I mentioned earlier on, it's actually quite a daunting couple of games we've got. Like you say, Belfast are on a high after a 4-point weekend. Manchester, I know it's a cup game, but Manchester are top of the league and are scoring goals for fun. It's probably not a great time to play either of these teams in the vein of form that we're in currently. But then strange things have happened, and it might be just the kick we need to get us back into gear. And I think Wednesday night we'll see a response, and I think we'll see an attitude change regarding Saturday's performance, and hopefully it will see us bring a win.
Okay. Saturday, Panthers taking on the Storm, also at the NIC, a Challenge Cup game with a 7 p.m. face-off. And this is another important one because it's only our second Challenge Cup game. We lost that first one in Sheffield with that last-second Levi Nelson winner. So, important we get some points on the board, but Storm in great form as they're currently top of the Elite League. And this is going to be another difficult game.
Yes, it is, but there are no easy games anymore, to use a cliche. Long gone are the days when you used to have a team getting regularly spanked, 15-16-2. We just need to turn up and, if we can keep it tight at the back, and that's probably going to be our focus for these next two games, is making sure we're organised defensively. It's then up to the forwards to create something, stop overplaying the puck, look for the rebounds, and who knows what can happen. I hope that we put the performance in on Saturday and Wednesday, and I hope we come away with 4 points.
Adam, Manchester potent in attack at the minute, as Andy said earlier, 12 goals over the weekend. We not so potent in attack, so this is something that the defence have got to watch out for, because obviously last year's Elite League top scorer Matt Becker, he is now at the Storm, and he's scoring for fun once again. So they are going to be a tough proposition.
Yeah, we're going to have to, put some special detail on Matt Becker, because he's lighting the lamp for fun, as you say, and it's going to be another fascinating game because, as you said, Manchester, seem to be ramping goals in from all places at the moment, and we're the opposite end of the spectrum. But if you look at it, you think that, I know we've been indifferent in form of late, but our sort of form has to sort of change at some point, and all of our home games, certainly that I've seen this year, we've been quite scratchy and edgy, and there's been a lack of fluidity from certainly the forwards, and we've been quite haphazard at the back as well. And I think that on Saturday against Manchester, assuming that we get a positive result against Belfast on Wednesday, I think that we need to take that into the weekend game and just put a marker down and say, we are the Nottingham Panthers. We have got some very, very gifted players and got some very, very talented forwards. We should be scoring a lot more goals at home than we do, and we have been. So hopefully, fingers crossed, Belfast and Manchester, might be on the end of quite a few goals from our forwards.
Okay. Anything to add, Andy?
No, I mean, I just to touch on what Adam said there, I mentioned earlier on, that I will feel sorry for the team when it does click, and like Adam says, we hope that it will be this next couple of games, and that our forwards will click and all of a sudden start finding the back of the net with a bit more frequency. But I think we have to be careful with Matt Becker, definitely, because he's a proven entity in the league, and he's proving that this season he's not holding back anything that he left off from last season. So he's a fantastic player, and he's as we've said, he's scoring for fun at the moment. But the issue that I've got is that we don't put too much of a detail on him, that we forget about everybody else. Because there are going to be some other good players on our team that are just as capable of scoring goals and making us look stupid. So I do think we need to pay attention to him, but I don't want to see us sort of solely focus on him in the sense that there are other issues and other players on that team that will be good. It will be interesting to see if there's any news on Brisebois. I know obviously there was something on social media about he was back on the ice but wouldn't be playing last weekend. I don't think he'll be back this weekend, because I think we'd have heard something by now perhaps. But I presume that, I'm hoping that it won't be too much longer before we see him, and then obviously we will have both Mosey and Lindhagen back where they want to be and where they probably should be. So that'll be nice, and it will free up a bit more. But I do think if Lindhagen played D on Sunday, as Ant said, that we will probably see that again at home on the back of the win. So it'll be nice to see Mosey back up front, and hopefully that will give us a bit of a spur and a bit of impetus to change the ways that we're playing at the moment. So yeah, it will be a tough couple of games, and I certainly think that looking at it on paper at the moment, I'd have to say that the tougher game is potentially Manchester, because they are literally just scoring goals for fun, and they're coming off the back of a fantastic away win in Cardiff. So I certainly think that's the sort of that's the big game almost, which is nice to see, because it's nice that these teams that are new to the league are they're causing a stir, and they're not just here to make up the numbers. So it will be a decent game on Saturday, I'm sure.
Okay. And we will leave it there for tonight. Just to remind you, there won't be an Ask TCW podcast this Wednesday because of the home game against the Belfast Giants, but it will return on October the 4th. Okay, so we will leave the show there. It's time to say good night, and thank you very much to Antoine Marie-Jeanne.
It's not a problem. I'm going to head to bed now because I'm absolutely knackered after yesterday.
Adam Reddish.
Night, everybody.
And Andy Haywood.
Anytime. See you later.
Okay. Thanks very much to you for listening. We'll be back next Monday. Until then, thank you very much and goodbye.